Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, Mayor Alex Nuttall thinks he's found a way to deal with shops operating illegally downtown by hitting the building owner. He explains how that works. And Chamber of Commerce Chief Paul Marco looks back at last weekend's Kempenfest, the good and the rain and the shuttle bus and the parking. We get the conversation started after this. Barrie police keep shutting them down, but they keep coming back. Fines and criminal records apparently not a big deterrent for the owners of illegal shops downtown, so the city is using a bylaw that allows it to take aim at the owner of the premises who are renting their spaces out to the illegal shop owners. Barrie 360's Ian McLennan getting the ins and outs from Mayor Alex Nuttall.
The city's announced it's using a new zoning bylaw tools, actually, to stop illegal uses. Property owners that are allowing, is it prohibited businesses in violating federal, provincial law? Maybe you could explain why this was done and what it means.
Yeah, we've had some both illegal marijuana dispensaries as well as illegal mushroom dispensaries. So we started with about 6 in the city of Barrie when we went down this road. We're down to 2 left. They're both mushroom dispensaries. And what we've seen in the past is there was actually, a car driven through the storefront of one of these shops, as well as a firebombing of the other one. These are not just mushroom dispensaries, is what we've seen around the province. There's actually been many other drugs found in these places.
So there's been violence associated with this activity.
Absolutely. So what we're able to do now is use the zoning bylaw to not just go after the shops themselves, because when the police go in, they've been opening 12 hours later, and unfortunately, the fines or the punishment for operating such a shop is not as stringent or strong as we would have hoped from the judiciary. So what we're able to do now is go after the building owners who are profiting from the rental to these mushroom shops, and we issued about $3,000 fine for these 2 places, and now on August the 4th, we'll be issuing a $5,000 fine to each of them, and every day after that, there'll be an additional $500 fine against the owners of these buildings that are, taking proceeds of crime from illegal drug dealing.
If somebody wants to set up a hairstyle place downtown or a legit business, there's a procedure in place, right? So this isn't, they're just fly by night doing this stuff?
Well, the problem is that about 10 years ago, there was a change to the business licensing bylaw that allowed for retail to be retail, and you didn't need to go in for full for a full license if you were just doing retail sales of already assembled products. So that has now left us in a position where in certain places the interpretation by the judiciary and powers that be are that these are retail, even though they're retail of illegal products. And so what we have to do is then go even further within our zoning bylaw to identify that illegal products can't be sold inside of buildings in the city of Barrie. It's quite strange. I'm not sure why it takes that to happen, but we've gotten there now, and we're enforcing. And gone are the days when a building owner can just be like, yeah, I don't care what happens inside of my storefront. If you're a building that rents out to illegal drugs to be sold out of the storefronts and on our streets of our city, you're going to get shut down, or you're going to pay heavy fines, and it's not going to make sense. If you cut off the flow of money, you're probably going to cut off the flow of these types of illegal activities happening.
Who are they? I'm not asking names, but who are these property owners? Do they actually live in our community, or are they absentee landlords, so to speak?
Well, I think the 2 that are left are not connected to our community, and others who have been in the past have abided by the law now and are following the set of regulations. But these ones that are from out of town, they don't really connect to our community. They set up with these mushroom shops. I don't know if there's a connection between the illegal drug activity and the building owners themselves, but Barrie's not the place where you're going to be doing this type of stuff. We're not going to allow LSD and all of these things to be sold downtown Barrie. We're doing everything we can to promote downtown Barrie as an incredible place to be. We see all the Troubadour Festival. You see all of the different things like the open air Dunlops that are happening. Kim Mitchell was here just 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of incredible stuff happening downtown, and we just need to make sure that we enforce our standards and enforce our regulations to keep it a beautiful place.
Yeah, and what things would you like the province or feds do you think they can do to at least nip it in the bud, no pun intended, regarding this issue?
Yeah. Thankfully, it's not the bud really we're going after now.
Yeah.
It's the mushrooms and psychedelics. But the I think on the federal side, it's really about enforcement and having real penalties for drug dealing. There is some bail changes that were announced in Brampton a few weeks ago with the justice minister. That's a good start. There's a lot more to do on this front. It's become far too lax for those that are dealing drugs inside of our communities. It's not just Barrie; it's across the country. When it comes to the province, the focus is really on the Mental Health Act to help individuals who are who are living in a state of addiction. One of the beautiful good news stories for the city of Barrie and for Simcoe County, quite frankly, is the work that's being done at the Heart Hub. We have 30 people in there at all times. We've seen a reduction in the number of individuals going into homeless services in the city of Barrie by about 10% year over year. And that's good news. I think that's because of the work that's being done at the Heart Hub. And I think it's because of the work that's being done on the shelter services themselves. The difficult part is there are individuals right now who are not in a position mentally to be able to respond to, do you need help? Can we help you? Is there a path forward to pre-detox and then detox and rehab, then supportive housing, then affordable housing, then market housing, and getting all of the supports in between? And so, where we need the province to bring reform is in that line. That's what BC is starting to do. That's what Alberta's done. That's what Saskatchewan's moving towards. That's what Manitoba's actually started doing as well. Quebec, they do it as well. So that would be a big move for the province, and certainly that reform on the judicial system on the federal side.
On the issue of the illegal operations and the mushroom shops, psychedelic, what have you, were you getting pushed from the BIA too to
Like,
act?
yeah, look, we want our downtown to be a place that has great shops and is inviting. And one of the things that was done in the past is we put in minimum distance separations between certain types of uses. When you think about cash shops and tattoo parlors and stuff, and those have been very effective over the years. What has not been effective is you don't put a minimum distance separation for illegal uses. Like, they're just illegal uses; they shouldn't be there in the first place. The second piece, I think, is where we are struggling when it comes to these methadone clinics and pharmacies. The province won't let us put minimum distance separations in for those, and so because it's under the healthcare world, it's outside of the municipal ability. So that's another piece for us that I think that we do need some help on. But these mushroom shops are going to be gone. They're either going to be gone or they're going to be paying $500 a day for rent, and that becomes incredibly expensive in a 30-day month.
Another Kempenfest in the books, always a big draw to the city, though rain put a damper, well, a drenching on the Sunday edition, and parking rates for out-of-towners may have cut into some of the profits for vendors. Here again is Ian McLennan with the head of the Chamber of Commerce, Paul Markle.
I know you're still massaging the numbers, but just based on what you've seen, talking to vendors, the public, what seems to be the response to, on the ground, at least in terms of, Kempenfest overall?
Well, it started out as a great weekend, and I think those that attended would say that it was a good event. The Sunday, obviously, we had some pretty severe weather that shut us down. It's the first time I can remember, and I've been involved for a long time, that we actually lost an entire day. And we lost about a couple hours on Saturday. But any time the weatherman says there's going to be a little bit of rain, it deters people from coming down, and that ultimately hurts us. But those that stayed, those that came and were open, reported pretty strong results. I think we had some excellent bands that played over the weekend, and those that came to those shows, the feedback we got was really, really positive.
I know you said about half the vendors turned out, but they did okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the exact number of who came and who didn't. I mean, the arts and crafts vendors are supposed to be there rain or shine, but obviously, when they've got product that they're concerned about, they're going to protect their assets a little bit. So, from what I could see, it was probably a third of them opened, and maybe a bit more. And the ones that did really really well. They kind of reported having really good conversations with the customers that came in. It was a bit more time. It wasn't quite the usual hustle and bustle, and they were moving product. They were moving their goods, very very well. So I guess when you take a chance, sometimes it pays off.
And Paul, also too, with regards to the investment that Kempenfest brings into the city, it's big bucks.
Big bucks. This festival is about 70% local. And when we say local, we mean within the 40-kilometer trading area. Anything outside of that would be considered direct tourism. I don't know. I think that number's a little weird, but that's what it is. So it is a largely local festival, and just the tourism component, because that's where we measure, represents about a $9.5 million impact annually, and that's from about 140,000 attendants every year, which we get from Environics and Cell Tower data. Same company that Tourism Barrie uses. We work with them, and they supply those numbers to us over that week.
And this is all a volunteer-driven group that brings Kempenfest each year to the waterfront.
Yeah, Kempenfest is a not-for-profit organization that the partners in it are the Rotary Club of Barrie, the Optimists, Knights of Columbus, the Art Club, and the Kiwanis Club, and then we have working partnerships with obviously with the city, but we're all volunteer. Everybody here does this. We're starting planning for next year as we speak. We're having debrief meetings and seeing how next year is going to shape up. But yeah, 100% volunteer driven, and very important, I think, for the city. I'm not sure people realize how much money comes out of those service clubs to drive the organizations that support the city, like RBH, the Women's Children's Shelter, and Alzheimer's Society. And you think of it, you name it, and there's an organization that's getting support from one of the service clubs or more.
And Paul, with regards to the bus shuttle route, no feedback yet, but it did change a bit.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting feedback. The feedback has been, unfortunately, not super positive, which is a shame. I mean, we did work with the city last year. They were going to enforce parking. We convinced the city to only enforce in part of it while we worked out some logistics for this year. Part of that was coming up with a new transit process or program, which was actually a free shuttle system that ran from Park Place down through Allendale, through the waterfront, up to H Block, which is right behind the library, and then back through on about a 12-minute bus route. That was free. There was a widely shared post with a voucher on there, and that was resident or visitor, like if they parked up there and hopped on the bus. It was going to be free and a really easy way to get around. And those buses ran late, so even if you went to the concerts, you'd be able to get back to your car. And that was to avoid as much congestion as we could possibly in the downtown core. And then the city was going to enforce parking in areas that you shouldn't be parking in. So as you know, we have a hotspot system, and the parking would then be charged for in the hotspot system. So it was some parts of that which were a bit of a surprise to us. There's some adjustments in pricing from what it was originally in those areas, and there was hotspots in areas that we weren't aware that they were going to put a hotspot in. So the problem is that if you live in the city, you have a waterfront pass, and you can park in different places along the waterfront for free. If you are not a resident, in other words, if you're from Midhurst, or you're from Springwater, or any of those areas that are just on our peripheral, you are not a resident, and you don't have access to one of those free parking spaces. So for 50 plus years, the parking has been free, and this year there was obviously a fee applied to that, and that was a shock to many, especially those that not necessarily following Coming Fest, because they're used to coming down, and it's always status quo. So that was a shame, and we're sorry that was a shock to many people. We're going to work with the city and see what we can do to. I'm not going to make any promises, but we'll work with them to see what we can do to mitigate that moving forward, because coming and paying for parking is, especially when it's $30 for a ticket or $60 or whatever, that's dollars that you're not going to spend at the festival, and those are dollars that come back into the community. So it turns a free event into a not free event, and that's something that we are very concerned about.
Yeah, I guess that the hotspot along Lakeshore Drive there by the South Shore, the military, so to speak, that used to be free. So that's what's changed.
Yeah, and again, it was one of those things where it was always enforced parking. I mean, you had to pay to park along there. It was just that the city kind of turned a bit of a blind eye to that over that weekend, and didn't enforce unless you were parked in front of a hydrant or something that was obviously going to it would potentially be harmful to the public. So, but they did, the decision was made that they were going to enforce parking, and if you were parked in one of those areas, they were going to make you pay.
Yeah, I think it was $15 an hour, $16 an hour.
Yeah, and that, again, that's city's prerogative, and I mean, there's both sides of looking at this. If you go to a festival in Toronto and you're going to pay for parking, I mean, I think it's the shock that it's something that was not expected, and that's what people are reacting to. However, it's one of those things where you want to keep people safe, and sometimes people are parking in areas that just made it unsafe when you needed to get emergency vehicles through, those kinds of things. So, I mean, I would say that it did thin things out a little bit, but certainly there are some people that are very shocked, and you can see that on social media. We're getting blown up on a number of different levels, and again, it's never our intent to have that happen. And we will take those complaints and all of those issues very seriously, and do what we can to to address them and to make the festival better moving forward.
Yeah, moving in the waterfront parking lots, there's always a charge there. Was there at the South Shore too previously, or were people
Yeah.
ding?
This year, because of the construction on the new Army, new
Couldn't get in.
CTEC building, areas that we had used as sort of overflow parking for volunteers and backstage staff, and all the different things that go into running the festival, that space was taken up because there's construction. So we actually paid for and rented the entire South Shore parking lot to be able to have that capacity. And I mean, that's something that I don't think people understand as well, is that, when we do take up spaces from the city to run administer the festival, we're paying for those spaces. They're not free.
Yep. So it's basically along that Lakeshore Drive component that was the issue, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, and along the waterfront too. I mean,
Yeah.
down through Centennial Beach, and it would extend down into Heritage as well. They're just taking the parking seriously, and there are plans, I believe, for some additional parking to be added in 350, 450 spaces. But look, when you bring 140,000 people over 4 days into the city, I don't care what you do, you can't put parking spaces in the sky. There's just not enough physical ground to be able to park everybody appropriately, especially not for free.
Yeah, I don't want to take away from the success of what
No.
Kempenfest is.
Yeah.
Were you folks aware that the city was going to be enforcing?
Yeah, and we were working with them. That's what I
Yeah.
said. We were working on the shuttle system to try to get people to use it. And we put out all sorts of social media and all sorts of posts. It's all over our website. It's all over the city's website. But again, if you've been coming to festival for years, you may not have gone to the website and seen it. And we don't have contact information for all of our patrons, so it's very hard to get that out there if they're not looking for it. So, yeah, it's a challenging situation, and something that we gutted about. To be honest with you, you don't want anybody to come down here and walk away with the feeling that we don't care. And that Barrie is a bad place to come. And unfortunately, that's what winds up happening when you have all of that negative social media. Is it puts a bit of a black eye on the city, and it's a black eye that, quite frankly, I don't think the city deserves. And I'm not talking about the politicians or whatever. I think the city itself, the citizens that are here, the people that are very prideful of Barrie. That's not what we're about. We have a beautiful waterfront, friendly people, great shops. And we want to share that and how people enjoy it, because that's what Kempenfest is about and what the city's about.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian for his input, to Gio for his technical touch and getting the word out, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360 and on our website, Barrie360.com. There's also our daily Kickstart podcasts available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.